Anakin Skywalker was becoming more and more immersed in darkness. His thirst for power and the fear of losing those he loved led him to the dark side, and his actions were no longer guided by the honor of a Jedi. The young hero of the galaxy, who had once been the one to bring balance to the Force, was now about to betray everything he had sworn to protect. His imminent downfall was the result of deep manipulations, patiently woven by Palpatine, who wrapped him in promises of unlimited power and control over life and death. This betrayal, however, was still in progress, and fate could take another turn. While Order 66 ravaged the Jedi, Ahsoka Tano, Anakin's former apprentice, narrowly managed to escape. In the midst of the chaos, she knew she needed answers. When she managed to contact Obi-Wan Kenobi, the shocking truth was revealed. Anakin had betrayed the Jedi Order and was at Palpatine's side, now closer than ever to becoming the Dark Lord of the Sith. Ahsoka's anguish was palpable, but her determination was even greater. She couldn't let her former master sink into darkness without trying to save him. Determination in her eyes, Ahsoka decided to go to Mustafar, where Anakin was. She knew it would be a dangerous mission, but she couldn't give up on the man who had once been her mentor and friend. When she arrived, the volcanic heat of the planet reflected Anakin's state of mind. Furious, out of control, consumed by the dark side. Ahsoka hoped that her words could bring Anakin back, but she knew the task would be difficult. However, before she could find him, she saw Padme's ship landing from afar. There was more at stake than she had imagined. On Mustafar, Anakin confronts Padme and Obi-Wan in a blind rage. Padme, desperate, tried to bring him back with words of love, but Anakin was already plunged into fear and anger. He believed that she had betrayed him by bringing Obi-Wan, and his distrust only fueled his dark side. The confrontation between master and apprentice was inevitable, and Obi-Wan knew that only Force could stop Anakin at that moment. When Anakin drew his lightsaber against Obi-Wan, the fight exploded into a deadly dance of blows and defenses. Each movement reflected the shared past between the two, but also the deep divide that now separated them. Obi-Wan fought with pain in his heart, knowing that Anakin's fate was in the hands of the Force. The battle was fierce, and Anakin seemed to have the upper hand, driven by the fury that now consumed him. But before the worst could happen, Ahsoka finally arrived. Ahsoka, seeing Padme still alive, quickly took her to the ship to ensure her safety. Despite seeing the damage Anakin had caused, Ahsoka still believed she could save him. With Padme safe, she turned her attention to the duel between her former master and Obi-Wan. She knew she had to interfere if she wanted to prevent Anakin from succumbing completely to the darkness. The battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan was still raging, but Ahsoka took advantage of a moment of distraction to use the Force in a surprising way. She locates a large rock above the battlefield and brings it down on Anakin, causing him to faint instantly. The fight is over, but the consequences are yet to come. Obi-Wan, exhausted and emotionally shaken, looks at Ahsoka with gratitude, knowing that, for a brief moment, Anakin had been saved. With Anakin unconscious, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka carry him back to the ship, along with Padme. Time was against them, and Mustafar was not a safe place. They needed to get out of there as quickly as possible, taking Anakin away from Palpatine's nefarious influences. During the flight, the tension was palpable. Padme, weakened, still held on to a thread of hope that Anakin could be brought back, while Obi-Wan reflected on everything that had happened. Ahsoka, on the other hand, knew that the real test was yet to come. As Anakin lay unconscious, his mind wandered in a sea of visions. He saw two children, a boy and a girl, playing together in a field. There was something familiar about them, a connection he couldn't explain. It was as if he knew that those children were part of his life, of a life he might have had. These visions seemed to come from an alternative future, a different timeline to the one he was on now. And for the first time in a long time, Anakin felt peace. When Anakin finally wakes up inside the ship, he is confused and vulnerable. The memories of the visions were still fresh, but the reality around him was different. He sees Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Padme around him, all discussing their next move. He felt lost between the love he still had for Padme and the anger that consumed him at the world around him. However, Ahsoka and Obi-Wan's vision seemed different now. They weren't there to fight, but to help him. Sensing Anakin's confusion, Ahsoka decided to intervene. She knew that, inside him, there was still an internal struggle between good and evil, and that the real enemy had never been Obi-Wan or the Jedi. It was Palpatine, who had used her insecurities and fears to manipulate him. Ahsoka reminds Anakin of who he really was and what he meant to the galaxy. Anakin, for the first time, begins to consider this truth, that he had been just a piece in Palpatine's game. Reflecting on Luke and Leia's visions, Anakin begins to realize that he has been manipulated. Palpatine had tricked him from the start, exploiting his greatest weaknesses. Anakin, for the first time, admits to himself that he has been used as a weapon for the Emperor's dark purposes. This revelation stirs him deeply, as he understands that his quest for power was fueled by an illusion. His mission should now be different, to redeem himself and make amends for his mistakes. Ahsoka resolutely convinces Obi-Wan and Anakin that the only way to save the galaxy and restore the balance of the Force was to confront Palpatine. He was the source of all evil, and as long as he lived, the galaxy would never know peace. Obi-Wan, although reluctant, agrees. Anakin, now more aware of his situation, accepts the proposal. Together, the three decided it was time to act and destroy the Emperor once and for all. As they prepare to confront Palpatine, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka know that a direct approach would be too risky. The city of Coruscant is on high alert, with incessant patrols and the Imperial Palace heavily guarded. So they decide to use the infiltration strategy. Anakin, who already knows the ins and outs of the palace, proposes getting close to Palpatine by pretending he's still on the dark side. This would guarantee access to the most restricted levels of the palace, where Palpatine remains, isolated from threats. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka reluctantly agree, aware that Anakin would face great temptation by getting close to the Emperor again. When they reach the gates of the Imperial Palace, Anakin goes alone to find Palpatine. Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, using their disguise skills and the Force to hide themselves, go unnoticed by the guards and manage to enter a secret area of the palace, where they wait for the right moment to act. Anakin, for his part, enters the immense throne room, where Palpatine is waiting for him, smiling with the same confidence that has always defined him. Palpatine, on seeing Anakin, assumes that he has returned to take his place as his most powerful apprentice. "I see you've finally realized that there's no escape from the dark side," Palpatine says, his voice laced with venom. Anakin, controlling his feelings, approaches, maintaining his facade as a faithful servant. He allows Palpatine to continue his manipulations, but inside, his anger and the clarity of his mission grow. Palpatine tries to seduce him once again, promising him absolute dominion over the galaxy, power beyond imagination, and even the ability to revive those he loves. However, this time, Anakin keeps his focus on Luke and Leia's visions, the lessons he learned alongside Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, and Padme's words. He realizes that true power lies in balance, not control. At the right moment, Anakin looks Palpatine in the eye and firmly replies, "I am not Darth Vader." The revelation stuns Palpatine for a moment, but soon the Emperor resumes his posture, sensing that a betrayal is about to take place. The tension in the air increases as the two measure strength through the Force, and it is at this moment that Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, sensing that the final confrontation is near, emerge from hiding. Palpatine smiles grimly, knowing that a battle is inevitable. He rises from his throne, his hands crackling with the dark energy of Force lightning. The final battle is about to begin, but this time, Anakin is not alone. He has at his side those who believe in his redemption. The final duel between Anakin and Palpatine was intense. Ahsoka and Obi-Wan faced the Emperor's guards while Anakin focused entirely on Palpatine. The Emperor used all his tricks, including Force lightning, but Anakin, now stronger than ever, resisted. He knew that this battle was not just about power, but about saving the galaxy and his own soul. At the height of the battle, Palpatine's Force lightning illuminates the dark hall, bouncing off the walls and creating a spectacle of pure destructive energy. Anakin struggles to hold his ground, channeling all his concentration and power into resisting the Emperor's attack. The tension is palpable. Anakin feels the weight of his past, but also the hope of a different future, free from Palpatine's manipulations. The Emperor, for his part, intensifies his onslaught, believing he can break Anakin once again, as he had done in the past. "You are mine!" cries Palpatine, confident that Anakin cannot escape his dark fate. But this time, Anakin is not alone. As he struggles to repel the lightning attack, he senses the presence of Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, both at his side, offering support through the Force. The energy that the Emperor threw at him begins to dissipate as Anakin, with the help of his companions, manages to redirect it. The Force flows through him in a different way now. It's not the raw power of the dark side, but the harmony he felt in Luke and Leia's visions, the peace he so desperately craved. He realizes that in order to win, he doesn't need to dominate Palpatine with power, but with balance. Even so, Palpatine doesn't give in easily. In a last desperate gesture, he concentrates all his hatred and fury into a devastating attack, unleashing a storm of lightning towards Anakin. The hall becomes a field of electric chaos, and for a moment, it looks as if the Emperor might be victorious. But in the midst of the turmoil, a new presence appears, as sudden as it is powerful. Anakin and the others sense the change in the air. Palpatine continues his attack, but out of nowhere, a green glow pierces the chaos. A green lightsaber pierces the Emperor's chest, interrupting his deadly attack. As Palpatine falls to his knees, his eyes wide in shock, silence dominates the hall. The lightsaber that defeated him retracts, and there, in front of everyone, stands Yoda, serene but determined. With his diminutive size, he seems a contrast to the gigantic power he has just displayed. Palpatine's body collapses to the ground, and with it, the empire of fear and control that he had established. Yoda looks at Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, his eyes tired but still full of wisdom. "Finished, the reign of the Sith is," he says, before turning and walking calmly down the hall, as if his mission had finally come to an end. With Palpatine gone, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Padme return to the Senate, ready to help rebuild the galaxy. The cycle of oppression was over, and now a new era could begin, this time without the authoritarian control that Palpatine had imposed.